Being big and strong is one thing, but being popular for being big and strong is another. With actors trying to keep up with the pressure of being strong, many have turned to steroids in the hopes of becoming a big, bulky hunk. Hi, I'm Stacey Taylor, and today I'm counting down the top 10 actors exposed for using steroids. So, which celebrities do you think use steroids? And let us know in the comments below. At number 10, The Rourke. On December 8th, Joe Rogan, a controversial podcast host, would take to his podcast The Joe Rogan Experience, and he would say that there was not a chance that The Rourke was clean. However, if you are a Rock fan, then you know how small he was compared to today, and back in 2009, he actually admitted to using steroids in an interview. The Rock would say that he and his friends tried steroids when he was in college playing as a football player for the University of Miami Hurricanes. However, he said his use of steroids became more prominent when he entered into the world of wrestling entertainment. The Rock has also noted that everyone in both sports and sports entertainment uses steroids to get big. It's the industry that still has a lot of culture to look the other way when it comes to taking performance-enhancing drugs to gain strength, muscle mass, a great physique, and overall boost wrestling performance. While Joe received a lot of backlash from his podcast and exposing people in the industry for using steroids, The Rock would come to his defense and he would say, "Great stuff here, brother, perfectly articulated. Look forward to coming on one day and breaking out the tequila with you." At number 9, Jason Momoa. The Rock wouldn't be the only one Joe Rogan would expose on his podcast, as he would also bring Jason Momoa into light when he asked Derek if he thought Jason Momoa was on the sauce. Derek, who is the founder of More Pilates, More Dates Fitness website, replied by saying, "I think my conclusion at the time is really iffy. One, because the guy is just a built dude to begin with like a big frame. But it would be safer to assume that not that he probably did a little something for his peak superhero." Now, there's been a lot of debate for a while now on whether or not Jason has been using steroids in order to enhance his physique. And this wouldn't be the first or the last time the actor will be accused of taking them. With Jason having such an incredible physique, it's hard to really tell if he has or is currently taking steroids. In most cases, it's pretty hard to tell if an actor is taking steroids unless they admit it. However, if you take a good look at him, I will admit he does have some exceptional genetics and a very aesthetically pleasing looking body. He has great abs, broad shoulders, and an impressive pair of arms. While his physique can be naturally obtained without the use of steroids, considering the little amount of time actors actually get to themselves, it's pretty safe to say at one point Jason has probably used steroids to help him gain a bigger physique. Hey my little peaches, are you enjoying this video so far? If so, don't forget to give this a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And number 8, Chris Hemsworth. The last actor to be brought up in Joe Rogan's podcast for using steroids would be Chris Hemsworth. With Derek claiming that Chris has sauced it up 100%, Rogan would even agree by saying, "Yeah, I think so too, and that there's nothing wrong with it." Chris has become a household name thanks to his role as Thor. However, before his days as the famous Asgardian god, he wasn't even bulky, and even to get the role, producers had to ask him to put on some more muscles. Even with his background as a surfer who occasionally lift, putting on 20 pounds of muscle can be daunting, especially if you're not using anything to jack it up, and not to mention it can be pretty hard to jack it up in a short amount of time. Although many people have affiliated Chris Hemsworth with steroids, many people, including his trainer, have tried to deny it, that he's been using it to help maintain his Thor build. However, with no actual proof, without Chris coming out to say that he's been using steroids to enhance his appearance, it's actually pretty hard to say that he uses. And number 7, Joe Rogan. So Joe Rogan is famously known today for his podcast, but to say that he's familiar with all sorts of performance-enhancing substances would be an understatement. So that's why when he accused The Rock's, Jason, and Chris, we pretty much had to believe him. Before becoming one of the most listened to voices on Spotify, Joe had a career that revolved around contact sports as a host, commentator, and interviewer, which means he naturally had the scoop on what was really going on behind the scenes, and more often than not, he was involved in using steroids for a great physique. Now, Joe has admitted to using steroids and other performance-enhancing substances throughout his show, as he has been using them for more than a decade now. With Joe somehow having the power to get people to admit they're using steroids by exposing them, we could see Jason and Chris come out soon with the actual truth. While Joe didn't use steroids to bulk up, he has taken low doses to overcome the signs of aging, and he's been pretty straightforward when it comes to admitting that he used them. With him spending a large part of his career as a UFC commentator and a comedian, he knows the signs of people using, so if he exposes someone, you know it might just very well be the truth. And number 6, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold is a 7-time Mr. Olympia, actor, and former governor of California. Being at the highest level of bodybuilding isn't easy, but staying at that level requires athletes to pump the iron, especially when it comes to landing film roles. In some cases, it may require these actors and athletes to use steroids, and this happened to be the case with Arnold. So Arnold has admitted to using steroids, but in his defense, he's always claimed that it was pretty new back in the day when it hit the market and no one really knew how damaging it was, and everyone was using it. In an interview in 2006, Arnold would even say that he never regretted being a steroid user or that he had gotten himself into the habit of using steroids. Arnold has said that he took them under the careful watch of doctors and other health experts, and he also stated that he and other competitors at the time even took steroids on competition day. Even today, steroids aren't officially banned in many bodybuilding competitions, but some contests absolutely require the contestants to use natural supplements over steroids, and they even have competitors tested prior to the competition. With Arnold remaining one of the most prominent figures in bodybuilding, a lot of controversy still surrounds him due to his use of steroids. And number 5, Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke has been a pretty controversial character over the years, so it's not really hard to believe that he would use steroids or do any type of performance-enhancing substances for a movie. When filming The Wrestler, apparently his role inspired him to take steroids to look bigger and more impressive. However, the only problem with his thoughts about steroids is that although they did make him look bigger, they definitely didn't make him look impressive after using steroids. It would actually cause him to look worn out, which of course was a big part of the role since he was supposed to be a worn out wrestler that was just barely making ends meet. His excuse that he ended up using steroids because he wanted to do what wrestlers did had to be as authentic about it as possible, and probably one of the most insane things that any actor has ever said or done when it comes to method acting. While Mickey would never fully classify what he took to get into his role, he would say, "I'm a wrestler, I behave like a wrestler." So if you put 2 and 2 together, then you can definitely agree that he did in fact use steroids to build his body up for the role. And number 4, Sylvester Stallone. As a Hollywood actor and action icon, Sylvester Stallone will always be known for his roles in some of the most iconic action films in cinematic history, especially in the movie Rocky. Because of the physical nature of the films Sylvester has starred in, maintaining a muscular physique has always been one of his top 5 things to do to keep up with his image. Just like any action stars that come into the 80s and the 90s, Rambo himself had to wrestle against Father Time, and with it he needed the help from steroids. Sylvester has even said, as you get older, the pituitary glands slow and you feel older. Your bones narrow, and this stuff gives your body a boost and you feel and look good. Now, back in 2007, the action actor did admit that he was caught trying to smuggle steroids into Australia, so that also made him become more completely open about his use to the performance-enhancing substance. And number 3, 50 Cent. Now there's been a lot of discussion when it comes to 50 Cent and his steroid use. Depending on whom you ask, 50 Cent could be a nobody or one of the best rappers in the industry in the early 2000s. He even appears in some film roles where he needed to be ripped and bulky. If you compare 50 Cent from before to now, you can clearly see that he didn't look half as big as he did now. With such dramatic weight and muscle changes in a short amount of time, many have speculated that the star has used steroids to achieve his look. Although the star has been accused of receiving doses of steroids from a licensed testosterone replacement therapy clinic, it also has not been clearly proven that he actually did. However, if you look at before and after photos and how quickly he got bulkier, it's clear the star definitely used something. 50 Cent has never admitted to using steroids. However, in 2008, he would find himself under a steroid investigation alongside fellow artists in the rap industry. He was named to have connections with doctors, pharmacists, and clinics that provided these substances to people. And number 2, Mark Wahlberg. Actor Actor Richard Rodriguez, a jailed steroid distributor who was under investigation by the DEA, decided to lift the lid on a number of A-list celebrities who he allegedly used to supply steroids to. In an interview with filmmaker John Bravo, Richard would name Mark Wahlberg as one of his longtime customers. He would also name him in a lawsuit filed against him in the state of New York. Richard would explain on numerous occasions Mark would order the steroids under a different name by using doctors' names or women's names, and he would even have the substances delivered to different addresses to avoid detection. With Mark being able to gain 45 pounds within 7 weeks for a film, many people have speculated that Richard's claims are true. As it is, it's pretty much impossible for any experienced lifter to do that. While some have tried to claim that Mark has some pretty awesome genetics and his body doesn't show any symptoms of using, it makes you wonder why Richard would list him as a big time client and why he would lie if Mark wasn't one. And number 1, Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck isn't exactly the name you recall when you think about the Batman or Daredevil, but his performance as the Dark Knight in Zack Snyder's Batman vs Superman has pretty much made him a cult favorite, to say at least. When the film was first released, the first things fans would notice was how big Ben got, and the truth be told, Ben is one of the biggest Batmans we've seen in film. After all, the role was for someone who had to wrestle with Henry Cavill. The body of Christian Bale had in the Nolanverse wasn't going to cut it. In the film, we saw a snippet of workout routines Bruce Wayne does, but it's not totally impossible that Ben did the same workout routines to get the body Hollywood wanted him to have. However, the short amount of time he had to actually get his body to live up to Hollywood standards for the film was actually quite short, and that's why there's been a lot of speculation and people coming forward to say that the star used steroids to get the image he had in the film. Well, that's it for this video, my little peaches. Until the next one, remember to stay juicy.